Of our great country, and I thought it would be beneficial if I made something to celebrate that. As you recall, Paul Revere lantern was used to signal the colonial Minutemen that the British were coming. And if it was one lantern in the steeple of the North Church, that was by land, and if there was two lanterns, that was by sea. So that was the early method of communicating. So when I started this project, the first thing I did was go online. On the top of the lantern, you'll see that there's a lot of punchings detail of the top, and you can see the punchings quite a bit better. And here's another picture that I took of the sides. See it, that it has some distortion. Now, and this is what I would call a pigtail hinge because it's curled 360 degrees around and it looks like a pigtail. Now on the inside, I put in, these are finials that you would normally see on a lamp, and I have several different types. Top to give it a little more decorative look. And the press tops were kind of challenging. This is a tradition and get pictures of the North Church lantern. Here is a picture, and this is a good depiction. As you can see, the lantern has, after 250 years, has seen a little wear and tear, although now it's in the museum in Concord, Massachusetts, and it's very close, very difficult to even get very close to it. But on the top of the lantern, you'll see that there's a lot of punchings, and this was primarily to let the heat of the candle go out the lantern so that it didn't get hot, because if you have too much heat in the lantern, the candle will wilt and melt in lieu of burning properly. Hence, the chimney, as you can see, has a lot of punchings in it. So there was a few things I still didn't know when I was in New England, so I went to the museum, and here's a picture I took with a little more detail of the top, and you can see the punchings quite a bit better. And here's another picture that I took of the sides. And the Colonial Society commissioned the building of a replica of the lantern. This was probably 20 years ago. And this is, of course, in brass. The original one was in tin plate, which is steel with a tin dipping on it. Obviously, the tin dipping has eroded away. So there are some in existence. Now, as you can see, these are lanterns that have a similarity, and let me tell you some of the issues I ran into. The first one was the punching. As you could see, they were special design punches, of which there currently are available at about $2,000 a pop. I did buy a set of square punches and a set of triangular punches, and they alone cost me $250 a piece. So they were expensive, and I turned the square one on end so it looks like a diamond. So then another issue was, this is a pressed top, and I made a press break, which I have a press die pattern, and I completely made that. The problem was I tried to upscale something and I just didn't have enough. The pressings turned out, really marginal in my opinion, but here's one that has been pressed, and you can see that it has some distortion. Now, the brass lantern, and these two lanterns are similar. One's made out of tin plate. Excuse me, one's made out of tin plate. So this one here, you can actually see the distortion. So I really didn't like that, and I figured, well, there's got to be a different way. Plus my scrap rate was, about 80%. And I didn't mind the scrap rate. What I minded, I had to punch all these holes first, and that was fairly time consuming. The other thing is, they had, of course, a punch chimney, and that is pretty close to the dimensions. The dimensions of this are 5 by 5 square inches high. This raise is 3/4 of an inch, and then I have, of course, the two chimneys. They had a different finish on the top, and by that time I said, well, I'm deviating so much, let's just make it more convenient, and it will be a replica rather than identical. So then the other thing was, there was a pressing of on the sides here, which I was unable to duplicate. So I figured, well, I'll have to leave the sides alone. And the door is pretty similar, and let me open this up for you so you can see the inside. The hinges are a little bit different too. This is pretty much a standard hinge that I would always use, and this is what I would call a pigtail hinge because it's curled 360 degrees around and it looks like a pigtail. Now on the inside, I put in a candle. In lieu of a regular candle, I used a electric candle. The benefit is I have a remote. It can be set for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. I can change the dimmings, and there's no heat. It's easy to use, and it's much more practical. So I did take the opportunity to jump into the 21st century. Now the finials on the top, rather than getting them machined, these are finials that you would normally see on a lamp, and they have several different types, and they have to fill a hole in the column because otherwise you have a hole which is really not very good looking. And on the bottom there's feet. So I filled the bottom and the top to give it a little more decorative look. Now this one here has a CD Marine amber glass, which is available online. Nothing fancy about it except for the price. Now, just a quick comment about the columns. The columns were very interesting because they have this curvature to it, and that's highly unusual in any lamp you'll normally see. So I had to come up with a way of developing this curved column post, which I go over in one of the episodes. So that took a lot of fiddling around and experimentation, but I eventually got it figured out. If you wanted to spend a lot of money for the right die press, you could probably do it a lot simpler, but when you're a hobbyist, you only have so much in the way of means. So as I worked my way around these, then I moved on to, the press tops were kind of challenging. So I did what I'll call a normal layout top. And on this particular normal layout top, this is a traditional way that you would probably do it. It's got the seam, so it's laid out flat, and then it's folded into position. So that looks a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, and actually it's not much different than the other one. Now, I used various types of glass. This is another CD Marine glass. This is easily and readily available. Of course, you have to pay the price. So then I went to what I refer to as my high top lantern. And high top is obviously got 2¼ inches of height on it, and it's got no punchings at all. Everything, the only thing that's similar on all the 12 lanterns I made is a chimney. The chimneys are all similar, finished off with this round hook, or this round loop, which makes it easier to hold. Now, this lantern has what I call the, I'm going to turn this on, has what I call the hairpin clasp, only because it looks like a hairpin at this angle. Again, this is amber CD Marine glass, and this is a little bit different. So basically, the lanterns that I made, there's 2, 4, 6, 7 lanterns. They basically are very similar. One of these lanterns, this lantern here, which is kind of interesting, has 100% antique glass. What I mean by that is it's hand blown into big bottles, and then they cut the bottle down the middle while it's still, in kind of a molten stage, and lay it flat. And this stuff probably cost about $10 a square foot. The only reason I used it was left over, but as I look at it, I could have gone to Lowe's and bought some window glass and cut it down. So as I was fooling around with that, I said, well, it would be interesting to see what would happen if column. So this is a creativity in me saying, well, let's do something a little bit different and let's see how you like it. So I did a variety of these. This one has got the punch top, and also because it had more room on the inside, candles in it. So it will give you, obviously 3 times more illumination. I think it's a very nice looking lantern. And as we move on, here's one again with 3 candles. It's got basically the standard video for this. So obviously I could get my tin buddies out. So here is one made out of tin. That's my Paul Revere North Church lanterns with its various modifications.